Welcome back to the Tribal Lines podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Lupo, and we are back today with our amazing guest host, Alex Rubino, for his second one of the season. Alex, how you doing, dude?
I am great, and after you failed doing the intro, I'm glad you got it this time, so I'm even better.
Awesome, awesome. So glad to hear it. All
Yes.
right, so something before we get into this episode that I wanted to talk about is watching this episode. I had the pleasure to watch it in Chicago at the Bryson Wendell watch party, where I met eight of the final nine players of this season, and they are so awesome, so cool to hang out with. Got a picture with all of them, had conversations with majority of them, and it really was a great experience. Probably one of my favorite watch parties that I've been to, especially because I love this season and I got to meet pretty much everyone left in this game. Uh, the one person from this final nine that I didn't get a chance to meet was Sue. And then I also got to meet with even though I didn't get to meet Sue, I also got to meet Saul and Asia. So that was so much fun. I'm so glad I did. And I got to ask a few of them one question that I always thought would be an interesting thing to ask some Survivor players, especially as they're watching their season live. So the question I asked was, what is one confessional that you were the most surprised to see from your fellow castaways?
I like that question. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
So we got a few responses. I asked it to four of them. I forgot what Sam's answer was, but I do remember Rachel's answer, Andy's answer, and Gabe's answer. So Rachel, her answer was she was surprised at Gabe's confessional in the round that she played her safety without power, where Gabe considered her the biggest threat in the game. She did not think that she was playing that well or that Gabe thought she was the biggest threat in the game at that time. She knew that Gabe was lying to her, but didn't necessarily think it was because she was a big threat. She thought it was just because she was the only yellow on the tribe. So that was something surprised her. Andy said that he didn't think that the stuff Sierra said in her confessionals was going to be as harsh as it actually was. He knew that Sierra must have said some things in the confessionals, but definitely didn't expect her specific word choices to be in the confessionals. So that was something that shocked him. But he did say that they are on great terms right now. So um, it no harm, no foul. And then Gabe said that he was the most shocked actually this episode when he found out that Kyle was the one to first bring up his name as of the main vote rather than Sam at the reward. He expected that Sam was the one pushing his name and then Kyle just hopped on board, but no, it was Kyle truly pushing the charge. And when Gabe saw that conversation, he was definitely surprised. But as I saw from Gabe getting eliminated and the way he was interacting with his castmates, he absolutely loves them and has no bad blood after the season. We'll see if he ends up being a bitter juror during the season, because the way he went out, there's a chance he might. But I don't know. I feel like he's a gamer, and I don't think he's really going to be bitter. Maybe towards Caroline, that would be the only person I could see him being bitter at. But everyone else, I think it was all fair game. And uh yeah, and so we'll see how that ends up turning out. But I'm just so glad I got to talk to all of them, hang out with all of them. My favorite two were Kyle and Caroline.
Oh, you're
The
picking favorites
conversations I've
now.
had with
Wow.
them. Yeah, Caroline was so sweet, so much fun to talk to. She also said she wants to play my Survivor mini, so that I host. So we'll see if she actually ends up playing. Um, and Kyle, he was just so cool to hang out with. He actually told me how in order to get me to respond to him through DMs, he said to because he gets so many nice DMs, it's so hard for him to go through all of them. So he will go through the ones that stick out more. So he said for your first line of your message to me, just start absolutely cursing at me for 1 to 2 lines, and that'll get my attention. And
Oh, God.
then,
Yeah,
so I cursed at him for a line or two, and then he responded back and he started cursing at me, and it was hilarious.
I don't know if I would encourage other people to do that, but yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
He was
This cast
dancing
is,
up a storm there, and he also said how he was interested in maybe doing the caucus challenge. So he was a cool dude. Caroline was awesome. Everyone was awesome. It was great to meet everybody.
a good group. And I notice every time we do one of these, you and I are at a live show. So
Yeah, pretty
last
much.
time I was there getting all of Rome's secrets and maybe a little too many. But no, this cast is great. What's fun, I love the way you frame that question about the confessional because always people ask, what surprised you? Putting it in that way really gets them, I think, thinking about a moment. What's funny, I'll just tell you one thing I asked a couple people was what food did they miss out on the island? Like what was the first thing they wanted to get? Sue just said pizza, which was interesting to get at 6 in the morning, but she made her husband go do it. And then Teeny was Chipotle. So good taste from both
Okay.
of them.
Very nice.
But this episode,
Yep.
Gabe's swan song, will he be back? We may never know.
He's not gonna be back.
No, probably not.
There's no
But
way he's gonna be back. He
I
tried
would
to
say
make
no
this
one.
storyline arc for him, like, oh, like he said he'll be back and now he's back, but like it's not gonna happen.
I wouldn't bet on it, but hey, Sierra Dawn Thomas, game changer.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
That's true. I never after watching her I watched her Game Changer season first before her original season and I was
And
like, "Oh wow, okay. She's helping lead an alliance. She must have been a game changer in her season." I watched her season. I was like, "How'd she get cast for this?"
yeah, there's one answer reminding me to say it. But she's a very beautiful woman. Yeah,
Yeah.
this episode, I love the way we started, to be honest, if we can just jump right in,
Yeah.
where Teeny's pissed, understandably so, hitting that low point. And Genevieve had a line that really struck me in the confessional where she goes, like, about talking about the Fallout. She's like, and the Fallout's name is Teeny, and Survivor's not fun anymore. And I was like, Keith Nail, may he rest in peace. Yeah, Survivor ain't fun. And just the moments like that, I think, are where you really see can differentiate a good player from a great player. Not them making the move, how they respond after making the move.
Mhm.
And the fact that Genevieve was able to, I think, get Teeny back on her side gives credence to maybe this was a good move. The fact that she nearly went home, maybe not so good a move. So will be interesting.
I don't know. I mean, yes, I Teeny was definitely on her side in this vote, but she
Will it
wanted
last?
Genevieve out. She just thinks that strategically it might be better to get Genevieve out next and get Gabe out now.
We'll
But
see.
definitely on this vote, Teeny was on Genevieve's side, but not in terms of the game.
Yeah, but
Teeny
here's
will
the thing.
go hard for Genevieve to be out next,
More
or
than
Kyle, one of them.
yeah, and then here's the thing. You give somebody like Genevieve one round, and maybe you forget about her. 10
Yeah,
other
no,
targets
you're
come
right.
up. And that's where I think Genevieve is going to be really good in this game. When I said after episode 5 I thought she was winning. I would I put my money on Genevieve? Maybe not. But would I sell all my Genevieve stock? I would not either. So
Right.
um
I 100% agree with the way Rachel approached this vote. Um, because Rachel was saying how um Gabe is everyone was constantly saying like, oh, Gabe is someone who if we don't get him out now, it's going to be hard to get him out later. He's always going to be a big threat in everyone's eyes. I think that Genevieve has a chance of sliding under the radar and being someone that if you don't get her out now, you might never be able to get her out. So I don't know. I feel like the way Rachel approached it with saying it's better to get Genevieve out now if she was going to be the vote next time anyway, because she has a higher. I think Rachel felt like there was a higher percent chance that Gabe would be the next vote if Genevieve was voted out, rather than if Gabe gets voted out, Genevieve would be the next vote. Uh, so I think that
and
would have been the right decision to vote out Genevieve, knowing that Caroline and Kyle were both very okay with voting out Gabe. I don't think it would have
yeah,
been a bad idea to have four Tukus in the final eight. Usually that's a bad sign, but when you have so many cracks like that, I think it actually is a smart idea. But we'll see how it turns out for them in the long run,
yeah.
keeping Genevieve in.
and maybe it's editing, but I think the way we start this episode and we first get like Teeny's apology for her blow up, it wasn't really a blow up. So I give Teeny credit for keeping their emotions together well.
Mhm.
But then you literally have Genevieve's top line, which another one I liked from her, of the needing to be careful because the tallest blade of grass gets cut. And I grew a lot yesterday. And very clearly, she did. Everybody was talking about that was Genevieve's move solely at Final 10. That was her move. And people were scared about of Genevieve. Like Sam, like we get like Genevieve and Andy in the hammock, and like then they mention Gabe, but then joins Andy, and Sam's like, I don't feel good about Genevieve. Kyle, a little worried about Genevieve. Teeny worried about Genevieve, and it kept going, and Rachel as well. And yet they didn't get her out. They had her dead to rights. Genevieve had no shot in the dark thanks to the rights negotiation we'll get into, and they did not get her out. Do I want to blame Gabe a little bit? But for a cast that I feel like will be very game body when voting for a winner, like they're gonna value strategy over challenges, I think
Yeah.
that they are so worried about the challenge threats right now is so interesting to me.
Not really. I mean,
I mean,
they're only worried about
Kyle's
Kyle,
not.
but that's crazy that he's won for immunity.
Yeah, but they took out Gabe, I think in part due to his challenge acumen.
Yes, I do agree with you in that it was a part of it, but I do think he also was so obviously the center of the Tuku alliance and breaking them apart now completely separates the Sue and Caroline who wants to go after Kyle from the Kyle who wants to go after Sue. So, um, I think that Gabe was the thing bonding the Tukus together. I think if there was any chance for at Final Eight the Tukus to run it all the way to the end, it would have been solely because of Gabe. Um, but so that's the main reason I think he was targeted. And also Caroline and Kyle both targeted him because of well, Kyle targeted him because he's just like another big threat and felt didn't want Gabe to turn on him first. And then Caroline just felt like at this point we have such a tight alliance that we could go all the way to the final three. But if we do, Gabe will beat me in the end. So decided to start separating her game early so that it wouldn't be like, oh, like I cut him right at the end, and so now I'm just the next biggest threat. No, she wanted to be her own, play her own game, not play Gabe's game and then get Gabe out. So
Yeah.
that's generally ultimately what happened.
There are a lot of people I will get this vote for, and I don't think it was a good move for them. I think Kyle
Oh,
especially,
yeah, that was a terrible move for
when
Kyle.
you are that big an immunity threat, for just let's go on that alone. The only person who even at this rate rivals you in challenge threat level in any way is Gabe.
Mhm.
And people are worried about him because he is the added strategic advantage and just being out in front and being loud. I don't see how you don't just use him as a shield. And he's your ally. Even if he was like an
100%.
enemy, I'd be like, oh, they want to take this guy up before me. Great, he can stay. Keep him out there.
Mhm.
Because now, and now this actually, I think even puts Genevieve in a better spot. Obviously, the fact that she stayed, but Genevieve can make an argument of, Kyle's still in the game, right?
If
And
Kyle loses, yeah, it's kind of like yeah, I think Genevieve makes final seven if Kyle loses. I think it
and
might be super. It could possibly be super obvious of a vote next tribal, but I
yeah,
don't know.
it could be. One thing I want to talk to you about before we get to the reward challenge, Andy of it all.
Yeah.
We got so much Andy of basically him hosting strategy sessions in the hammock with Genevieve, with Sam, with Kyle, with Teeny, and then him talking to Rachel. And I listen, as a fan, I love it. It seems like he's just having a great time out there, talking about playing people off each other. It's a Mercy overplaying. Like I'm worried that eventually, like, listen, I think you still have some of the bigger threats, but as we get down to 7 and 6, we're like, you know, Andy's doing a lot. Even if they don't like, res I think some people are gonna be like, oh, we remember the beginning of the game and how he just wasn't even a threat, and then others are like, well, now he's playing too hard. So I'm a little worried worried for him. Like I think he's playing well, but I'm also worried.
I
How do
I
you
think
feel?
that it's interesting because, for example, in this episode, and a lot of confessionals I say from Gabe, even though in the game he was just a very confident player because he thought he had a lot of allies behind him,
Mhm.
and that's why he seemed cocky in his confessionals. I think he just felt really confident and then got blindsided. But it seemed like a lot of his confessionals were leaning towards him looking cocky. And for Andy, all these confessionals are leaning towards him looking confident. It doesn't make him look cocky. It makes him look like he truly has a really strong hold on this game. So the way they're portraying him, I do think that he is in here for the long haul. I think he's going to at least definitely final five, I feel like. And I personally think he has a Charlie edit where he's the
Ooh,
main strategic confessional person in this season who will make it to the end but not get full um will kind of not be looked
credit.
at in the way that he thinks he should be looked at. And I think someone sitting next to him who also played a great game will get the respect over him, even though he was a very good strategic player. So I think he makes it to the end and loses, in my
I
personal opinion, because of all of this. Because not only that, but he's the most obvious winner pick in this season. It's ridiculous how much screen time he's getting in every episode, talking about for a good 2 to 3 minutes of confessionals of how he's in an amazing position in this game. And that's like a lot of different segments throughout the episode, every episode. So I think he's getting over edited to the point where I don't see him winning this season. I think it would be way too obvious, and this is too good of a cast to make one player such an obvious winner pick.
yeah.
Um, so I don't think he wins. I think he makes it to the end. But I love how he's talking about he has his web of different alliances. Everyone wants to work with him. The power dynamic shift between him and Sam. Now Sam's coming at him, trying to get him to align with him rather than the other way around. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
And how he's saying he's like the silent assassin, which so far he has been.
I think the way that Andy's game has gone from literally from like below rock bottom to where it is, one is a testament to him. I give him a lot of credit, but it is something that's so interesting. Like I think we've talked about for a while how people can't win the game with moves in the pre-jury, but they can certainly lose the game. And not even going home, but just I think, and I worry that he is viewed, even though I believe he was 31 out there, 31-year-old man, almost as a child in a way, much like maybe a Xander was, Austin was to an extent. And because of that bad start, where he was like having, I mean, he had a mental breakdown out there. I feel for the guy, but that sticks with people, even if they don't like acknowledge it, like in their subconscious, I feel like they're like, yeah, we remember how this started. So he's playing well, but look where he started. Whereas maybe he gets to the end with a Genevieve or Rachel or Caroline, and they're like, did they really? That's like they all played good games to get here. Look at the beginning. Andy's kind of lucky to be here, whereas these other people weren't so lucky they are in their spot. I don't know. That's what I'm worried about for him.
I also
And I
think
will,
that him getting all of these, like every single episode almost, even though it's showing great confessionals of him being strategic, there's always at least one clip of him either looking stupid, looking silly, looking clumsy, like the fact that, getting to this reward challenge, how it shows a slow-mo video of him biting and licking the ball. And literally 5 minutes prior to this, it showed him being a master strategist. Like,
yeah.
I feel like if you're gonna have a winner pick that who's being super strategic, like, why are you showing every episode him being silly and stupid?
We're getting a lot of strategy from him before challenges. But when,
That's
I've
true.
noticed
And then afterwards, we're
when
getting
the
nothing.
vote is being decided, he's kind of not in the picture, which partially can be a good thing. But he's still making some waves. And I will say, the editing of this season gives me vibes that a woman is winning. Because Survivor, we
Yeah.
know this well, is not the best at editing female winners and winners who maybe rely more on a strong social game. like if it's a Caroline or it's a Rachel or even Genevieve to an extent, they haven't. Genevieve, they've given us more because Genevieve's had a couple, but by and large, they haven't had like big moments, and they've definitely been under edited. But I also haven't had really anything terrible, so we'll see.
I also
Yeah,
think the
this
girl's gonna win, yeah. But
and they all deserve it. I mean, they're playing this game outstanding. I will say this reward challenge, other than Andy trying to basically fuck it like he's done a couple others, and giving people on Twitter some great gifs. Uh, it was fine. I mean, when
yeah,
we got the random draw, it was like,
it's
all
pretty
right, I think
dominant by one team.
I Kyle, Rachel, and Sam. It's like we know where this is going, probably.
Yeah.
And then they go to the sanctuary, which I think you and I both are probably on the same feeling of been there, done that. Let's do something new.
Where great things happen though, you know?
Sure, great things. I love Rachel being talking like I'm excited for like rice and they're having fruit. Like this fruit didn't feel like great, and they're like, oh my God. So
Right. No,
yeah, all we
exactly.
really
I don't I think we need something other than the sanctuary. It could be literally the same sanctuary, but just call it different things each time. I don't know. It's just getting
yeah,
old.
yeah, bring them
It's
into the
getting old in
Fijian
the new
village.
era, and that those two words shouldn't go together.
Oh no, the old and the new era is the theme of the new era.
Yeah, honestly.
Like we when Jeff was like, all right, this is the rice negotiation. Like, are we scheduling everything like it's a plan? Like, all right, at final 10, we're gonna do this. Final, like, it feels like a formula, and that's boring. But just let them play
Yeah.
Survivor. We haven't even had like a fully normal vote. It feels like in a
Yeah,
minute.
because of all the lost
Uh,
votes and everything.
but
But
I
yeah,
will say the only thing
Kyle.
that really interested me at the sanctuary, if we want to just jump to that,
Yeah, let's
was
jump.
the Sam and Rachel conversation
Hmm.
where Sam's like, I trust you. And Rachel's like, you blew up my spot last night. How the hell can I trust you?
Yeah.
And if I'm Sam, I'm like, shit. Like, Rachel's not as dumb as I thought she was. And then, but how do you think Sam played this?
I think Sam played it perfectly. Um,
Okay.
I think that um the way Sam approached it was saying that the only person he owes something to this game to in this game is Rachel, and saying this to her, and the way he said it with so much passion, and like it really seemed convincing to me that Sam will make it up to Rachel and really try to protect Rachel in this game. And I think that um, unless he's just a really, really, really good liar, I think he's being completely genuine. I think he really wants to make it up to Rachel. I think Rachel should be able to trust Sam moving forward, even though time and time again, Sam constantly screws over Rachel. Do I think Sam would do it again if he needed to? Absolutely. But if he does not need to, I think that Sam will be a great ally for Rachel. But Rachel brings up a great point. Like Sam keeps lying to her over and over again or betraying her trust in some way. So it's hard for her to trust him. But
Yeah.
at the same point, at the same time, who can Rachel truly trust 100%? Nobody. Everyone in this game at one point or another has wanted her out, who's still
Yeah.
left. So that's
And
that's not good.
no, it's not. But I think one thing, if Rachel makes it to the end, I think she's got this.
I think
That would
so
be
as
so
well.
impressive.
Yeah.
And Sam is playing too damn sloppy.
Yeah.
He's like, he to me is very, very reactive. And like sometimes it's like, okay, patient. But he's not patient. The minute he hears something, he's like, I had to do something.
Mhm.
Instead of sometimes taking the time to think, okay, how am I going to handle this? I get Survivor moves fast. It is tough. Um, but maybe he has to be a little bit more delicate blowing up Rachel's spot that last vote because it went right back to Rachel immediately.
Right. And
And
also
and I'll say this one thing.
yeah,
Rachel's really smart. I think she is the I will forgive you to your face, and she's willing to work with him if the situation is right, unlike a Sue with Kyle, which we'll get to in a minute.
right.
But she's not dumb enough to be like, I believe Sam. He's telling me the whole truth. She knows in the back of his head, oh, I can't trust this guy as far as I can throw him. I will use him as long as I need. But I think the minute she gets a chance, she's taking. If somebody says, I want to take a say, good, go ahead, let's go. So I really worry about that for her.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I
And
don't.
in terms of Sam, I think that yeah, he knows he's on the bottom, but I think he feels like he's more on the bottom than he actually is because this game is a very fluid game with voting blocks and anyone can get voted out at any point. If you get blindsided one vote, you could be in the majority the next without having to do any like heavy lifting. So I think that I think Sam probably did do the right move blowing up Rachel's spot because it did kind of get him back into the middle ground. But I think that at this point in the game, now after that round, I think he's in a good spot to chill out and not
Yeah.
constantly feel like he's on the bottom because he just kept telling everyone over and over and over again, I'm on the bottom, I'm on the bottom, I'm on the bottom. Like I understand it like makes you now less of a threat that you're on the bottom, but at the same time, if you keep saying you're on the bottom, it's kind of making people think, oh, I guess he doesn't trust me enough to think of me as a close ally who could protect them. And so that
Yeah.
could possibly backfire for him coming up.
Sam is one of those guys that I think is very smart strategically, has a lot of the right moves, doesn't know how to fully execute them properly. Like my issue is not him blowing up Rachel's spot. It was the way he went about blowing up Rachel's spot that was so obvious that got back to her immediately. Like I
Yeah.
think he's smart enough that he can come up with a way that gets Rachel's name out there without blowing up her spot immediately. I don't know, because then it comes right back on him. I'm curious to see how he plays it. And another thing, perception's reality out there. Sam may not theoretically be on the bottom, but if he feels like he's on the bottom and he plays like he's from the bottom, almost saying to other people, I'm on the bottom, they're gonna believe him. And then then if he gets to the end, they'll be like, Sam, you were on the bottom the whole time. You didn't really have control. Why should we vote for you? He's like, I
Yeah.
wasn't on the bottom. It's like, yeah, but you thought you were, and you told us you were the whole
Yeah.
time. It's
That's a
like,
good
what
point.
it, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But speaking of someone who's not on the bottom right now, but might be after this vote, is Sue. And that segment with her and Andy, I will say, I find it interesting move by Andy going over to Sue, although he has to know the back said he can't cross Sue ever. The whole Tweedledee or Tweedledum where Sue said it Tweedledee and Tweedledum just had me dying.
That was funny
Because we
too.
get that, and then we get Sue just Survivor editors in the new era. Listen, there are a lot of things in the new era I don't think are great. I think, of course, the editing of these like montages. I was at a bar with about 20 other people, dying laughing at the entirety of Sue just ripping on. I hate him, I can't stand it, and just because it's genuine, does it make sense? Not entirely. But when you're out there and you like have to fight for your life, it's just so interesting. He wrote my name down. I'll never forgive him. I hate him. I hate him. How many times do I have to hear that he's poor? Oh my God, that was so.
I
Sue,
thought that was hilarious.
Sue is giving such entertainment. I love this woman. I love this woman, and a delight to meet in person as well.
Yeah, I think it was hilarious getting to see this montage. I'm so glad it was put into the episode. I know that a lot of times this season they've been putting small clips that don't have anything to do with the episode in the one or two episodes prior to it actually coming to fruition. So I do think that this Sue Kyle dynamic is definitely coming up extremely soon within the next two episodes for certain. And I personally think that this Andy Sue alliance will make it the distance. I think Andy and Sue are in the final three
Ooh,
going up against the winner of this season, whoever it might be. Um,
huh.
that's my prediction.
I
Um,
I could
so I
see
do
it.
think that this is going to work out. I think that Andy will become Sue's new Gabe.
Ooh, that I don't know about. I don't know to that extent,
Not to that extent, but like to
but
have another ally where Sue
yeah.
is like, I don't want to vote this person out.
Well, that's one thing. But I think getting Andy to be in on that is another.
I think Andy said in his confessional how like he's playing everyone and has a bunch of different alliances, but the only
That's
person he said he actually wants to go to the end with is Sue.
right now. But we also have seen Andy change his mind in about the blink of an eye.
Hmm. Yeah, but
So
he wants to go to the end with emotional players, and
yeah,
Sue's an emotional player, and I do not think Sue will change. I think she will always be an
no,
emotional player.
yeah,
Um,
I guess my thing is I think he might want to go to the end. But what if he makes a move that goes against what Sue wants? It's not writing her name down, but it's a move where he's like, I need this person out, and Sue's like, what if he wants to take out Caroline? I know they're probably Sue and Caroline probably their relationship is a little bit rough after this vote, but who else does Sue have? Sue probably still at least likes Caroline to a decent extent. If Andy says, I want to get Caroline out, and Sue's like, no, I don't listen, Sue's not going to relent, and I don't think Andy would relent either. Just be like, yeah, sure, Sue, whatever you want. So I'm curious to see how this goes. Like it could go that way, and I don't see of them being in the final three, but I wouldn't guarantee that.
Yeah,
That
I
would
don't think
be
that Caroline, if let's say he wants to target Caroline, I think Sue might be hesitant, but I do think that the fact that Caroline just blindsided her, I think that for her game, she should want to trust Caroline as much as possible going forward, but I don't think the trust will be fully there. So I don't think if Andy did that, it would one hurt Sue as much, and two, I think Andy would tell Sue.
yeah.
Um, so
And
we'll see. If Andy completely blindsides Sue again, then that's out the window. But
I
if
yeah,
if not, then I think regardless, Sue would
we'll see.
still stick by Andy.
I got in an era of players telling everybody about the idol, I gotta give Sue credit. Who knows about her idol? Just Caroline. That's it. It's great.
It's going to be interesting to see how it gets played. I hope it gets played. If it goes home in someone's pocket or it gets just used at the final five for no reason, I'll be upset.
Yeah, I would like to get played. We'll see.
I think
Maybe
Rachel's might get played, but I don't think Susie's going to get played
we'll
unless it's just
see.
played on her at final five.
We'll see. I can't wait for the time whenever it comes that Sue's writing Kyle's name down. She's gonna be skipping up and down those steps like wee.
I wonder if she
Uh,
does the Kyle.
she's gonna have her own way of doing it. Maybe she'll write like Kyle's name and then be like Tweedledum or whatever. Because
Yeah, or she'll do like a sugar
oh man,
confessional where like not loud enough for everyone to hear, but like just go into Kyle on the
uh,
voting booth.
that or a Sandra with Russell or Rupert. Oh man.
Yeah.
We so
Yeah,
yeah,
Teeny.
Teeny. Let's
Yeah,
go.
let's talk
Yeah.
about Teeny. So
Ah.
one thing before we talk about her confessional, is Teeny, going back to Andy and Sue, Teeny is also a very emotional player. Does this mean that Andy wants to also bring Teeny very far? And what does this mean for Teeny's chances to win? Because I feel like a lot of times the emotional player never seems to win unless they were also a very strategic player. But it seems
Here's
like Teeny is not doing very well strategically in this game. And in addition to her being emotional, does this possibly make Sue and Teeny seem like easy beats at the end at this point?
here's what I'll say. I on your premise, I don't disagree with you. I don't. But here's the thing. Social game, I feel like, is never always talked about individually, but I feel like it without that, you're not your strategic game and your challenge game mean nothing. Like absolutely nothing. Everybody out there loves Teeny. I don't even think likes Teeny. They all love Teeny. Who's saying a bad word about Teeny? And that is credit. Teeny has one of, if not the best social game I think on this cast. And for that alone, could very well be their downfall, and I would not blame anybody. If somebody takes Teeny to the end thinking, okay, they're not going to get respect from the jury, Teeny already, I think, like probably has Saul's vote, I almost bet no matter what.
Yeah.
If Teeny can get to the end and Genevieve's not there, I think Genevieve would be impressed.
Hmm.
Um, and I could keep going. I could keep going through people.
I
Like
think they would be impressed, but I think there would be someone else there that
if
would be
it's
more impressive.
well, I'm going to give you the scenario of Teeny, Andy, and Sue. I think if Andy's
I
that
think
taking
that is
Teeny to the end.
I think that's the only situation where Teeny could possibly win the season.
I disagree with you. I think there are others which she can win. We also have to see how they play the rest of this game. But I, to get into that emotional moment,
Hmm.
Survivor always has, and I want to say sob stories, very sweet stories, that segment where Teeny goes in talking about mourning their relationship with Genevieve, and then ties that into their struggle with their identity, who they are as a person, transitioning, all that stuff, feeling alone out there. That nearly had me in tears. I mean, that was one of the sweetest things, and maybe it's because I met Teeny before the season. Never knew them super well, but we saw each other at Bryson when viewing parties. I mean, Teeny could light up a room. I knew that instantly, but also just hearing the emotional connection they have to Survivor. And I believe they posted on Instagram a couple days ago. If you want to see, like, they wrote a love letter to Survivor 4 years ago when we were all stuck inside and miserable. And for anybody like us who is either doing a podcast like this or listening to one, we all have a connection to Survivor that probably to most people is insane. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think anybody looks at us and like, oh yeah, you have a normal relationship with this show. Teeny wrote out this love letter, and I don't know if Teeny will ever listen to this. I doubt it. That encapsulated not only for them what Survivor means to them, but for me, and I think for so many fans, what Survivor means to us, and I've never been able to express into words. I just want to give Teeny that like thank you. From the segment on the show to everything after. And I know when they were out there, they were like, I would say actively transitioning, like figuring all that out. And what a place like Survivor, where you're at your highest highs and your lowest lows to figure that out, figure out your identity. I mean, I can listen. I think playing Survivor, knowing who the hell you are inside and out, left and right, is hard enough. And for Teeny to figure that out there, I know Evie had a similar journey out there as well. Takes a lot of courage, a lot of bravery, and I just want to give Teeny all the love in the world, from a personal perspective. And then their bag caught on fire, which Survivor could not have asked for a better metaphor. Like they are like, yes, yes, this burnt bag lights a fire under your ass. And of course, I went like I would bet that maybe a producer would feed that, but I know Teeny came up with that on their own. Just like it's right there, and that the way that just tied back into the game so well. And I feel like it's not gonna be the last we see of that little bag with a hole in it. So just
Yeah, I think it was definitely great to get to see this emotional confessional about her identity and like what like the battle and everything. And we, luckily have been getting a lot less sob stories in the last few seasons in the new era. But whenever we do get one, it usually is because this player generally goes far or this player is about to get eliminated. What do you think it's going to be for Teeny? Do you think like let me get this confessional in before they go home, or let me get this confessional in to increase her character arc for the end game?
it that is tough. And what I will say to you with all the sob stories, and not to compare them all, the fact that we've gotten overall, I'd say less of them makes them mean more.
Yeah,
It really does. They're like
exactly.
picking what means something. And I think just the way that they were feeling on the bottom completely and just tying all that in was just like it didn't feel force fed at all. Like it felt just perfectly. It made sense in place, all that. Gun to my head with that question. I do think it's more it ties into Genie Swan Song.
Really.
As I don't want it to.
I think the
Um,
opposite.
I could see maybe not this round, maybe they could count, but I think a round or two, maybe like the beginning of the finale, like the first part of the finale, like maybe at six, I could see at some point everybody being like it would be one of those votes like, Teeny, we all adore you.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
maybe
I
if
see
Teeny
that
also
too.
gets their footing a little bit more and like, because like they've been on the bottom a couple of votes, but they've also been in good positions at various points. And I think yeah, I do think it's gonna be one of those like Teeny gets voted out. Unfortunately, like, towards the end, we get like all the happy music.
Yeah,
We get a
I
really
think towards
sweet
the
final
end
words,
I could
and Yeah, like I'm saying at like 6 or 5, which
Yeah,
granted isn't that far from where we're at
maybe
now.
even 4. I don't know.
Oh man. I will say actually, you know what? If Tina goes home with fire making after their bag caught on fire, chef's kiss.
Right?
I don't want it, but chef's kiss and an ending perspective, which
Yeah, because
man, oh
also it
man.
was like the whole fact that the bag caught on fire and she was having a rough time after the Genevieve blindside. I don't
Yeah.
think this was like, oh, let me just, this is a perfect episode to stick this confessional in because Teeny's about to go home. I think it truly is that they just added it in because this is perfect for her character growth. Um, because, she must, I don't think that she had this confessional prior to this round. So I think
Mhm.
that they were just putting it in this episode not because she's going home soon, but because it's like a great confessional to
Yeah.
really tie together what she's truly going through.
This one doesn't feel like there was a deeper meaning or editing of putting it there. That's like this is where it happened. It
Exactly.
feels genuine. I
Right.
think that people watching at home have already like gotten to know Teen as are getting to know Teeny as we go, and it just felt like the right spot, which and I think it just happened that way. Um, and on a lighter note,
Yeah.
we
Rice
go to the
negotiation.
we go to the mini challenge. I will say my maybe my favorite. We start this challenge and Rachel's walking in, just goes and I just captured this quote. You and Paul's Jeff, I swear. And Jeff goes,
Look at this.
yep, yep.
That's funny.
Um,
Yeah.
this race negotiation, I can just run through it really quickly. Jeff is like we do this whole race negotiation, which I'm already like getting sick of doing it.
And it's
Like, all right,
not
we're doing
really a
it.
negotiation
Yeah, we're
because
doing
they
it at
tried, and
nine.
then he was like, "No, this 4 is the set price."
Yeah,
Like
yeah. He's like,
a set price is not a negotiation.
well. Here, yeah. But then they figured out a way around that.
Yeah,
4 sit-outs. Gabe says, let's do three. Then Caroline's like, let's offer 2 shots in the dark. And then Kyle was like, it's apparently there's no number between 2 and 8. He just says, I will give up everybody's, like, and that's including Rachel not having it.
right.
Um, you what I love this cast for? They found a twist that is stupid, and listen, I think Shot in the Dark is one of the better twists. But they're like, we don't need this. Let's just manufacture it out of the game completely. Can they do that with fire making?
No,
Negotiate with Jeff to get fire
I know
making.
you're big
Obviously,
into anti-fire making, but I think fire making is perfect.
oh God,
But
Steven, you're killing me.
at least the fact that there's a challenge in the final four, that's what I like that.
We have a challenge at the Final Four. It's called Final Four immunity, which now means nothing, regardless. But back to this. The Kyle offering every shot in the dark, I just found so interesting. Literally, they're like, we will get rid of this element. Then I could argue makes the game more interesting. But then Gabe has the little like John Harbaugh speech to give him a Ravens reference and convinces him. And Sam, I think, was stuck between a rock and a hard place, and had no choice. I don't blame him for doing it.
I don't think Gabe
Uh,
convinced them.
what?
I don't think Gabe convinced them.
I don't think Gabe.
I think Jeff put an unnecessary target on Gabe's back, and I think Jeff should have shut
Mm,
his mouth.
no, I don't. I mean, Gabe put that pitch out there. Whether that was the impetus for him to, I don't think he went from like, I'm not doing it. Gabe said his speech and then he's doing it. I think Sam was like getting in that direction, and then Gabe gave that push, and he's like, all right, I just can't piss everyone off. And I mean, if you're gonna do something like that, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna blame Jeff for this.
But
It was
he
right
also
there.
said it at tribal council. Like you could have just been like, "Well, yeah, Gabe was talking to you. Like, did that influence your opinion?" Rather than
Here's
just being
what
like, "Gabe seems to have convinced you." Like,
okay, and here's what I'll say to that. It's on the players. Dance around Jeff's questions. It's not the good ones can do it. Yeah, right. Maybe Jeff led the witness a little bit, but Jeff does that a
well, no,
lot.
Sam did dance around the question, but Jeff like still said what he said.
And here's what I'd say. And that's why Gabe has to jump in, be like, no, 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 no. That's on them.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, I'm fine with this happening.
It was not that big of a deal. I just
I
thought
do
it was
love
a
that
little
I just
unnecessary.
love that we somehow managed to get rid of a twist completely.
Yeah.
Literally, we got rid of an entire twist. Would I rather you get rid of like all the losing of votes or extra votes? Well, yeah, I'd rather you do that.
It
Uh,
just seems like it's only available until Final Seven, so there was only going to be like 3 more rounds they could use it, and a lot of times this cast has been so good at blindsiding that you think that you always need your vote. Your vote is so important in this game, and if you use your shot in the dark, you're not able to vote that tribal council. So unless you know for a fact you're going home, you're probably not going to risk playing the shot in the dark and losing your vote. So
Yeah,
this shot in the dark really doesn't seem like that big of a deal. It is when the whole cast has to give it up, but I do think that this was smart for a lot of players in this game to get this rice.
yeah. The race happens. Kyle two or final two. People I know so were like, oh, Kyle used his arm to lean. Survivor has 9,000 cameras. They have 9,000 people checking these challenges.
Oh wait, what happened with the arm?
So the way they were, so you know how they have to hold the disc,
Yeah.
and in the past, I think it's been a rule you are not allowed to use your forearm to lean against
I
it.
think like majority of them were using their forearm.
They were this time. I believe Sue wasn't, but
Oh,
people were saying, oh, that's cheating. If Jeff doesn't say it, and they have 9,000 cameras everywhere, they have several producers who are checking. No issue there. Kyle wins immunity.
yeah,
Good for him.
exactly. I mean, if
Um,
Rachel can't get away with stealing rice,
yeah,
then they are not
exactly.
going to get away with cheating at a challenge.
Exactly. I was like, Kyle wins. We go post challenge.
Four immunity challenges, one away from the record.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Which yeah, in 5 rounds is insane. Although this is
Yeah,
like the only one he really authentically won because every other one had a little twist.
that's true.
Um,
But yeah,
but yeah,
with the people that are right now considered for the vote, we got Genevieve and Gabe.
yeah.
Um, Gabe,
I
Sue, and Rachel all want Genevieve. Sam, Teeny, Andy, and Genevieve all want Gabe. Kyle, he wants Gabe, but he's nervous that if Gabe's voted out, then he'll be the next biggest target. And then Caroline
yeah,
wants Gabe, but she's nervous about if she votes him out, Sue might not trust her anymore. So
yeah.
at this point, it's looking like Kyle and Caroline are truly the swing votes in this vote.
I To be honest, I'll say this, like watching this back, especially this part, this felt like this was written on the wall. Gabe was going home when they tried to make a story out of it. The first time watching it, I definitely thought Genevieve had a shot of going home, and just because in my head I was like, you have to take out Genevieve. I was
Right.
nervous for it. Watching this back, I was like, they're kind of telling us Gabe's going home, and they're trying to make it interesting.
Especially with
Also,
the way they were editing Gabe.
yeah, we got the line at the beginning from Tina that I love. Of it's a delicious option thinking about Genevieve walking out the door, but also acknowledges they need to get Gabe out first. Which do you? Not entirely, but regardless,
I think it would have been better to get Genevieve out.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think Genevieve is probably like in terms of if I said we were doing a final nine to vote for Leonard Genevieve's sweeping them all, probably. But we're obviously not. So,
I think the
so
thing that they probably it needed to go back and forth on is we know Gabe is a big threat. Is it too scary to have Genevieve in the game, or is it too scary to have four Tukus in the game? And I think even though it was so obvious that the Tukus wanted to turn on each other, I think it could have been, like Teeny says, too delicious of an option to stick
yeah,
together and just those four make it a few extra votes with each other. So I could see that that
yeah.
was more of a driving force to why Gabe before Genevieve.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's an indictment on the Tucans that they didn't even get rid of one of them beforehand. Like
Yeah.
that vote you had, where you had Kyle dead to rights. I'm sorry, you have to take out Kyle. You have to. There's no other option. Regardless,
Hmm.
looking, I was like as I was rewatching it, I was looking at like where all the conversations went, and we start with Caroline at the head of all of them. Her and Gabe, then her and Gabe, where Gabe is trying to pitch that they're going to go to the end, and then her and Andy, where she's pitching to get rid of Gabe. She goes to Sue to lie to Sue. Then she goes to Rachel, where Rachel's like, I want to get rid of Genevieve. And then talks about pitching Kyle um, going forward. I found this so interesting that we start with Caroline kind of running point, and then we shift over to Rachel, getting her with obviously I had her with Caroline, then we go her and Kyle, her trying to convince Andy as well to take out Genevieve, and then we end with a little bit of Genevieve worrying about the position that she's in. And one other moment I love before we get to tribal, we get is when Genevieve goes up to Teeny and Andy. And she goes, "It's me or Gabe." Do you remember Teeny's reaction?
Yeah, it was like
Teeny's has the biggest grin on her face on planet Earth. Like Gabe had, it's like,
Teeny was like, it's
yeah.
gonna be Gabe, right?
Well, Teeny first said yeah. Like when Genevieve's like, it's her or Gabe. Like Tina, I think had a moment of like, karma's a bitch, isn't it? Isn't it nice? Like now you screw me, and now you're on the chopping block. And I think even
Uh-huh.
Tina, even though Tina knew Genevieve wasn't going home, she had to like, yeah, like literally the
Yeah, no, you're
smile
right.
was so pure. And then we get, of course it's Gabe. Like, and if I'm Genevieve, I'll be honest, I'm there. That happens. Even if I don't, I am sweating every bullet on planet Earth, and I think she was.
Oh, she was for sure.
Oh man, and then yeah, we get Gabe's little overconfidence about that how
Yeah,
Caroline and
that
Sue
if he
won't
makes
vote
it
for
through
him.
this vote, he's gonna win.
I mean that too, and I think I was more just saying that there's no way that Caroline and Sue vote against him, which
I
obviously can come
mean,
to
if I
pass.
was Gabe, I would absolutely be thinking that. That is
I
the
think
locked
it.
in alliance that I would have thought on
You
the
know what it
island.
is? Here's what I'd say. One, you can never assume on Survivor. You
Yeah, I
never
mean, I
can.
guess you
Yes,
you, you can because you need to trust people. Like,
yes, but
doesn't
there's a
necessarily
difference
mean you're
between.
100% certain, but you can
But
be
he was.
pretty certain.
That's the difference. That's the difference. Believing in somebody versus having complete and utter faith in them, I think, are two different things. If you believe in somebody, but then you know that you still have to like check in. You still have to acknowledge, okay, how could this be better? How could them going against me be beneficial for their game? And how can I nip that in the bud?
Now,
And
now that
Gabe
is something
didn't.
very smart. That is something that when playing Survivor, that is very key to think about what, like, not be super paranoid, but consider what could go wrong, and if it went wrong, why would the people who I trust be turning on me?
Yeah,
How would this benefit their game? Because you're making every move to benefit your game.
yeah,
So if you are, if your vote against me is the only thing that could change the vote, why would
yeah,
that help you? Yeah, and if you
yeah,
could figure out a good reason why, you should be nervous.
yeah. And then we get, I think the little, now looking back on it, little just bit of editing where Genevieve just goes, no one's talking to me today, which I believe is true. But I think they threw
Me
that in
too.
there because they're like they gave us so much about how Gabe is likely going, and then we need a little bit. Yeah, here's the intrigue of the vote. And listen, I don't blame Genevieve. Genevieve understandably was nervous, and I give the credit to the other players, kind of like I don't say isolating the both of them, but being like,
Yeah, and I
look,
because Genevieve was so nervous, I feel like Gabe should have
but
been a little bit more nervous.
he should have. But I will say, without the shot in the dark, not having it, maybe it's worth it to like. And maybe somebody did like give Genevieve a little bit more comfort. Maybe they did and we didn't see it. And Genevieve was just nervous by nature, which I understand. But we go to tribal, and I mean, it was funny. It was we didn't get a question from anything to Genevieve at the end until like the very end. Like we literally, Jeff goes to Teeny. Well, first Teeny goes to Saul as Saul walks in, and
Saul's entrance and outfit. Apparently, that's been the talk of the town.
well, here's what I'll say. We may have the most beautiful first two jurors in the history of Survivor. And I would say this, if you're into men, you got the best eye candy in the world, Saul. If you're into women, Sierra's gorgeous. If you're into both, you got heaven on earth.
Right, right.
Um, but listen, they both are gorgeous. I mean, in the porn, listen, maybe I'm weird. I don't love Survivor in the rain because it stifles gameplay. I love Tribal Council in the rain.
Same. Yes.
And listen, if I'm out there, maybe it's a different story. Although I would like to be at one in the rain. It's just
Right,
something
right.
seeing Jeff wet, seeing the jurors wet. I don't know. It's just like it's like it is really happening. But yeah, we get. I mean, a lot of the beginning was just like the basic stuff of how do you decide who to vote out. The word community came up a bunch. And I will say, I like Andy going, the rights negotiations was symbolic of how we want to play the rest of this game, like kind of together and all that stuff. And I was like, hmm. And then Gabe is like, what about people sitting next to each other at the end? I think that was his pitch, probably to get Caroline back on his side. That probably would have backfired. You know what I mean?
Did
Because
Gabe
like,
have that pitch?
yeah, because Gabe was like, we're talking about like good criteria for people is everyone thinking about who they would want to sit next to at the end.
Okay.
And I think in the back of his head, that was I need to get Caroline. Even if it wasn't, I need to remind Sue and Caroline, hey, we've got this plan to go to the end. But in doing so, Caroline's like, yeah, I don't like this plan. Goodbye. And
Yeah.
we didn't have, I will say, travel, I say it's all love in the world. I mean, it was just compared to the last book, felt like a lot of nothing.
It was a lot of nothing.
Yeah, we got a
We pretty yeah, it was literally
going
nothing.
thread
It was literally
hunting.
just asking questions, people answering them, trying to dance around the vote
Yeah.
so that
It,
nobody really knows what's going to happen. The complete opposite of what Banu would have done in that situation.
it was a lot of everyone's a big threat. We want to get out big threats. Who's a big threat? Yeah, I don't know. That's in the eyes of the beholder. We got a lot of that.
Mhm.
I kind of got a little annoyed. I'm like, we kept going at the same people. And then at the end, let's ask Caroline a question. I was like, oh, she's here. Good. Let's ask Genevieve a question. I was like, Genevieve's supposed to be your other vote. Why is she not getting a question until now? Which maybe in the back
Right.
of my head should have been another, all right, Genevieve's probably not going. Um, but yeah, we get the what bit of Genevieve, like less people are talking to me. Um,
Yeah.
Sam, I liked his funny line of like, I feel better today. But the last time I felt better, I immediately got blindsided. So
Right. Yeah,
Gabe
definitely a
laughing
lot of
about
good answers, but
a whole lot of
ultimately
nothing.
yeah, ultimately not whole lot of nothing except for the vote, which was a big blindside on Gabe.
Yes.
Gabe did not expect it at
I
all. A
I'm
seven to
shocked
two
that
vote.
yeah. I like Genevieve's voting confessional, where she just goes, if you play an idol, I might be toast. Even if you don't play an idol, I might be toast. So it's been a crappy day. And that with the rain, I can only imagine like Genevieve, like, because maybe it's me. I'd be that kind of player. I would probably be like her. Listen, I don't think I'd be as good at the game as her, to be clear, but I think I would be that level of paranoid and probably down in the dumps. Like I would try everything, but I'm like, all right, I'm probably gone. And I was like, this sucks. And then to not go home, Jen was like, oh, I had a new lease on life. And I will say, what's so interesting is we get the Rachel, I believe that was Rachel with the confessional hiding the vote where she goes, "You're the biggest threat out here. We'd be fools not to do it when we can."
That's exactly when I knew for a fact Gabe was going home. Like it was pretty obvious based on the edit, but I knew that was for a fact because all they talked about all episode is that Gabe is someone who, if you don't get him out now, you might not be able to get him out later. So, and
Yeah,
they didn't say that about Genevieve, other than the fact that just
but
Genevieve's a big threat. So that's when I knew.
what was so interesting though that it was Rachel who is one of the bigger campaigners to get Genevieve out over Gabe.
That's why they did it, so that it
Yeah,
would
no, that
people think that, oh, maybe
and
Genevieve's going.
I'll give them credit. They got me a little bit.
Yeah.
I was iffy. I was like, all right, but yeah, we did a 7-2 vote. Gabe tells Kyle he loves him. They kiss on the mouth. No, they didn't. But
The
they love each
Caroline one
other.
is hilarious.
Yeah, he's like, you got a little snake in you.
Got a little
And
snake in you.
I love that there's like, did he call you a snake? And like, Carol's like,
And then
maybe.
Andy's like, ooh.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how Caroline can use that to her advantage. Because if
Oh
Caroline,
wow, I don't have the support on the jury that you actually think.
yeah,
You think I
yeah.
have Gabe, but I don't.
And it's like Gabe was like one of my better allies, and I ever rid him. Yeah, you really think I'm winning this game? No.
Yeah.
And
I
then we
think
get
that
Gabe's,
could be good for Caroline.
and then
Um,
we get Gabe's. I'll be back, and Willie probably not.
no.
Um,
But now Sue's
yeah.
left out of the vote. Does this mean she's going to be on the bottom?
Who
I
does she
don't
want to kill this
necessarily think
time?
so, but
Who is she pissed off at? I'm really here to see it. We didn't get much in the
I feel
preview in
like
terms of
she's
like
going to
her.
be just more like she's going to be annoyed at Caroline for sure. But I think this is just going to more fuel Kyle, the fury against Kyle.
I'm so curious because you what it is. I think we've seen Sue like not get her way before. The only thing that literally the thing that pissed off Sue more than anything was getting her name written down and what was ultimately a meaningless vote. I'm like I think she's gonna be upset, but I will say I think if she blew up, we would see that in the preview of her being like "fuck you, Kyle" or whatever.
That's a good
We
point.
didn't get that, so I'm curious. I don't know. I'll be honest.
Hmm.
So I'm excited for next episode because I think we're getting more Survivor and it's great.
Yeah.
I
Let's talk about the next episode.
I think I think we're getting a boring Kyle boot. I really do because we didn't get much in the
I
preview.
think so too. I hope not, but I think so. Um,
What?
but the scenes
You,
from the next episode, we got Kyle worried because you never want to bring a family man to the end. That is a
yeah,
great point. That's also a reason why a lot of the older women who make it far don't make it to the end. Because they are someone who's like a mom, the mom of the tribe, the
yeah,
someone who's really trying to win for their family. A lot of times, whenever someone has a great game and a sob story of why they need the money at the end, it kind of gets people to want to vote for them more. Hence the
Yeah,
Kenzie Charlie um,
we'll
little
see.
debate on who should have actually won the season. I think that
Will
really helps Kenzie
will
out there.
we shall
So
see.
makes sense.
Um,
And then
yeah.
Kyle was so close to winning immunity, dropped his blocks. So it doesn't mean that Kyle necessarily lost, but he's doing well in the challenge in the next episode and just gets so close to spelling immunity with the blocks and it
Hey,
dropped.
I spelled it. I did that challenge.
Oh, did you? Oh, that's awesome.
I won it at the little pop-up. Did I spell immunity? No, because we had 3 minutes. Actually, to be told, I won it with 2 letters.
Oh, there you
I
go.
went very so I got like drop. I just dropped earlier than the other two, and then I had time to rebuild, and the other two
Mhm.
dropped at the last minute, and I won. So doesn't need to, no one needs to know how I won. I just I won that challenge.
Yeah.
Um,
And then Sam thinks Rachel has something up her sleeve. She does. She has
yeah.
an idol. Does this mean that the idol maybe comes out this episode, or
Ooh.
whether it comes out at Tribal, or if it gets told to somebody and now it now becomes not a
Yeah, because
secret?
no
We'll
one knows
see.
about that.
No one
Yeah.
knows about Rachel's. And
These players
then
are doing good about keeping secrets.
yeah, and then we have the underdog alliance is formed between everyone except for Genevieve, Sam, and Kyle. I think this
Eh,
will for certain be used this vote, I think.
we'll see.
But I think this vote, but I do not think it's an alliance that will just get out Genevieve, Sam, and Kyle. I think one of them will be out in the next two votes, maybe.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see. I think Kyle's definitely going. I frankly, I'm excited. It's Survivor. I'd love them to prove me wrong, but we'll see. I was like, if we're gonna have to get Kyle out, get him out now.
Hmm.
I will sacrifice
Who?
this episode if it means we get a good final seven, because also
Yeah.
final seven is usually a really key swing vote, and I can live with the final eight vote being a little like la di da da da.
Meanwhile, even though I think Kyle has zero chance of winning this season, I do. He was definitely the most fun to hang out with and talk to. I talked to him the longest amount of time at this watch party. Hung out with him the most, cracked a lot of jokes together. He's a really cool dude. So I'm hoping he makes it further. I hope he gets that fifth immunity win and gets the ties the record. We'll see what happens, but yeah, I think it might be done for him coming up. But my top three right now, I personally think these three are the only three that have a chance to win.
Okay,
And I think everyone else still has a chance, but I think the winner will be one of these three.
let's hear it.
I think it will be either Sam, Rachel, or Caroline. One of those three are winning the season, I think.
I see zero chance on planet Earth Sam wins this game.
I
I see
just
no
think
chance
I
Sam
just think
makes it to
that
the end.
Genevieve is not going to make it to the end. I think
I
Kyle's not going to make it to the end.
no,
I
he's
think
not.
Sue and Teeny personally have less of a shot to win than everyone else. I have in less opportunities in a final three scenario, and I think Andy is over edited, so that automatically brings it to those three people.
I might throw. I might throw. I still think I throw Genevieve in as my third. I think Caroline and Rachel do it. Like, yeah, I think gun to my head, it's right now. Rachel probably the best chance. Caroline number two. I'd probably throw Genevieve three, and then I think I throw Teeny Andy, and then the rest of them in there.
Okay. I put Sam
We'll
as
see.
three. I put Rachel as one. I put Caroline as two. Even
We'll
though
see.
my winner pick is Caroline and I'm sticking to it, I think
Yeah.
Rachel might have a slightly better chance based on the edit. But I do think Caroline is playing a good enough game where, with the right final three scenarios, she can win this game. And with
It'll
a
be.
good move later on in the game. So
Oh,
we'll have
I'm
to.
excited to see how these players try to take the game into their hands. I think it'll be
Yeah.
fun.
So
Fun road to the
who's your
end.
number one winner pick right now?
Rachel. It's
Rachel.
Rachel.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
agree. I hate that we agree, but we agree.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens next. Is it the easiest Kyle boot ever, or is it going to be an interesting vote without another Kyle boot, which would be crazy if he lost immunity, but we will see. Alex, thank you so much for recapping this episode with me. This has been
Thank
so
you for
much
having me,
fun.
Steven.
Of course, dude. And hopefully we'll see you back here for the finale episode.
If you'll have me back, I'll be back for the finale.
Okay. Awesome,
Let's
dude.
do it.
All right. Thank you guys all for listening and watching this recap, and we will see you back here for episode 11. All right.
Awesome.
See you guys.
Bye.